Tracy Harwood. So I've done a little bit of digging around and I've discovered.
Ricky Grove. Fog comes in on little cat feet.
Phil Rice. This is the best film that I've seen all year and maybe ever.
Damien Valentine. Use the machinima, Luke.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ricky Grove, and this is a Now for Something Completely Machinima podcast, where we cover machinima and related real-time technologies, as Phil always says. I'd like to introduce my friends, who are my co-hosts, Tracy Harwood, Damien Valentine, and the inimitable Phil Rice. Hey.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey there.
This final week of November is my pick. And I chose something more for its potential than its actual technical qualities. It'll be interesting to see what my friends have to say about it. It's called Life of a Star Citizen Stuntman Machinima, and it's by a group called For Science. And it's exactly what the title describes. It's a stuntman in Star Citizen, which is a popular sort of space game, and it's about this sort of kind of dumbass stuntman who is more interested in drinking beer than he is working on jobs. He goes out, and of course the jobs are catastrophic, and he constantly is being reconstructed, or parts of him are being rebuilt because he's just so dumb he can't figure it out. I chose the machinima, which on the face of it, you might not think it was a machinima that I would choose. But as I said, I was more interested in the potential with it. The film has lots of problems, sound issues, visual issues, storytelling issues. But the thing that most impressed me is that the creators seemed to me were trying to make a combination of humor and drama. Because there are several times where this stuntman's drinking becomes quite pathetic, and you feel for him. He wakes up in a drunken stupor in some place, and you begin, it takes on a little bit of depth, and you begin to think, well, maybe the life of a stuntman is a problem, because alcohol would solve all of those problems. Now, they don't fully explore that. But I like the fact that it's potential. On the surface, it's very funny, but the central character often has this quality that it makes you feel so sorry for him. And although the songs that they use, the country and western song, is a bit on the nose, it still is appropriate to it. And overall, I liked it. I thought it was a fun, interesting film that I knew would bring out ideas and conversation. So I'm looking forward to your comments on it. But I enjoyed it. I would urge you to watch it and make up your own mind. So have at it, you guys. Tell me what your thoughts are.
I liked that this was different from a lot of what you expect from a Star Citizen film to be. Like, we've seen things that are sort of heroic characters going into battle and defeating the enemy and having those kind of adventures. And we've seen other films that are very serious but deal with the lives of people living in this world. And okay, so this life of a stuntman is someone living in this world, but it's not the kind of life you'd expect someone to make a machinima video out of.
Yes, right. That's right. That was one of the appealing things to me about it.
Yeah. So I really like that this is a completely different approach to telling a story in the world of Star Citizen. And it was really funny. And you kind of explore this aspect of filmmaking in a game that's being used for filmmaking, which has kind of added this extra layer to it, which I quite enjoyed as well.
Good point.
And obviously, when you have these other videos with big battles going on, all of the characters you see and all the vehicles are controlled by real players. So in a way, they are stuntmen. Hopefully, their real lives are a bit better than this guy's in this video. But it was nice to. I kind of felt like they must have watched one of those epic battle videos and thought, I wonder what it's like for the characters in those scenes to actually be like. What would they be like after the film was finished? And this kind of explores that. And yeah, it's a little bit. It's a film that's very rough, but I feel like that makes it work better than if it was a very polished video. If it was that, it didn't have that perfect sound and perfect editing and all that. I don't know if it would quite work the same because it reflects his lifestyle. That he's drunk and he's a mess, and the video being rough and a little bit messy adds to that in a way. I don't know if that really makes sense.
There were additional technical problems that they shouldn't have had. For example, several scenes are much too dark. They should have made them much brighter. Also, many of the scenes have no sound effects at all in them. They should have done some work on creating ambient sound, and it's not that hard to come up with simple sound effects for different scenes. They didn't do any of that. It gave me the feeling that the film was created. They came up with the idea and they just wanted to get it done. They didn't spend a lot of time on the details. But I'm hoping that with good feedback from us and possibly from other folks on there, they might improve their filmmaking techniques and their next film will be even better.
I'd like to think so too, because I agree there's a lot of potential with these filmmakers to tell stories that are different in Star Citizen. So I'd like to see more of that. More of the characters that you don't normally see covered in a game like this.
Yep.
It's really interesting that you say that, because this is obviously a community project and they've got a Discord. And when you look on the Discord now, I joined the Discord just to sort of see what it was they were doing there. I mean, there's some well-established Star Citizen teams on there. I mean, for example, there's EE Studios on there, whose series Overclock that we've mentioned that one in the past. There's about 500 or so members in that community, and the whole point of it is actually that they support one another to make Star Citizen what they call law-friendly machinima for the community itself. So they're really focused on the machinima techniques that they can kind of deliver inside the game and the aesthetic of the game itself. And there's all sorts of threads within it about finding different crew and helping with editing and audio and kind of technical aspects and whatnot. And I think that's it. The way they're supporting one another to do that is really quite interesting and worthwhile, if you like. Excuse me. But from my point of view, in terms of the film, the whole thing was just a little bit too long for me. We're presented with this sort of day in the life of this kind of alcoholic stuntman who's kind of clearly disillusioned with his lifestyle, and obviously does it just for the money, although he's not making any or not enough. And I kind of really liked I kind of liked the way that they presented the sort of behind the scenes story of it. I thought that kind of concept had really got quite a lot of potential, with the actor's personality more being teased than really what you saw in the tale itself, I think. And I think what you got through it is the sense of this guy. You got the sense of what he was trying to portray as this sort of almost what I'd call perhaps a B-roll performance. So he's not even a main stuntman. He's kind of like a guy in the background.
The guy that'll do the stunts that nobody else will.
Exactly. You kind of definitely got a sense of him not being the main man, or covering the. He's hardly the body double for Tom Cruise, for example. That is just not his story.
He's the guy that gets killed in the background about
1,000 times.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's definitely the sense of the character that you got. And I thought that was portrayed pretty well. You know, he's an average player. Or what he's doing really. He's being portrayed as the background for a very average game player. And therefore what you got is the discussion, you know, this bit where he goes in to sort of talk to his agent, and then the bit at the end where he got a little bit more of an interesting assignment was to do with the fact that actually all he's there to do is get killed by this really average game player. But much like a kind of a caged animal might be fun to shoot for certain type of folks. That kind of thing.
Good
But they
point.
could have done so much more with that. I thought the idea was there. The execution just didn't cut it well enough for me, but definitely got great potential. There's so much more they could do with that. I really like the potential there. I didn't pick up so much as you, Ricky, on the soundscape. I thought it was okay. Perhaps there could have been some elements that were more exaggerated. And they could have made it clearer and easier to see what was kind of going on. I thought that the music was okay to a point, but then it got, that same music was sort of running through the first part, and then it was also running at the end. And I thought,
but it would notice the different style of the music at the end. The music at the end was a punk style.
Yeah, but it was still the same. I get where you're going with that, but then I thought, well, actually, the point is, it starts all over again tomorrow, and it's just exactly the same for this character, day in, day out. And I got that. I thought that was kind of nice, but I just wanted a little bit more from it, I think. But yeah, I don't think I've got anything more kind of really
okay
to say about it. But I mean, I did enjoy it. I just thought, it needed a little bit more finesse.
Thanks for being tactful, Tracy. Phil?
So you're probably not gonna expect me to say this, Ricky, but this is the kind of Star Citizen content that I've been waiting for. And I mean that without sarcasm. This is old school.
Say that one more time, because I'm putting on my sarcasm detector. Go ahead.
This is the kind of Star Citizen content I've been waiting for. This is old school.
There's no reading. There's no sarcasm reading.
Purely in-engine machinima. It's, this month writing has come up a few different times, and we've kind of danced around the idea that everything else in a film can be great, but if the writing isn't good, it brings the whole thing down. The inverse of that is also true. If the writing is great, it elevates the whole piece, even if the rest of it is a hot mess, which is what this is. It's a hot mess. He turns on the bed and there's no sound whatsoever. It just, to a sound guy, it just jumps out. It's like, oh, come on, how hard is that? There's all kinds of flaws, but it's hilarious. It's a hilarious film, first and foremost. That's not the only emotional element to it, as Ricky, you mentioned very, very astutely, but it's hilarious. My favorite moment and line is after he's met with his agent / boss, and he's walking out of the office, and the agent says, "I love you. Say it back." It's just so perfect, man. It's perfect.
Yeah.
The way that the beer drinking scene that happens shortly after that, where it's him standing at the bar and he's got the bottle up, and it just keeps cutting to additional
more bottles.
And guys waiting behind him at the bar, like trying to get just wonderful decision there. Like it's so sloppy, but it's also what a great way to convey that, I'm reminded of, there's some scene from, I want to say it might be one of Tarantino's movies, where a guy is watching someone from a car, like observing it, smoking cigarettes, and as he finishes them, he drops them out the window, and then it cuts forward in time, and there's this huge pile of cigarette butts, and he's still there smoking, and finally someone comes out of the house, and that scene's been replicated many times. That was the feel of that, of this is just an efficient way and somewhat funny way to convey something. So the music was interesting, and I have almost an allergy to copyrighted music, and because of my experience in the past with copyright and with copyrighted music getting in the way. I have to recognize, though, that the climate has changed, and if you're not looking to commercially capitalize on your work, then all hail copyrighted music, because YouTube, as long as you pick something that's not so obscure it's outside their catalog, certain artists are not in the content ID system. You could use any copyrighted music you want to. And as long as you don't care that you're not going to monetize your video, YouTube's happy to let you use it. So there's a part of me that goes, well, then why not take advantage of that? Why not just have fun with that? And so he picked songs, whether or not they were great songs to pick, that's debatable for sure. But there was numerous copyrighted music uses in this, but he did it. I could tell that it was picked to serve the story. And I don't know, it kind of made me examine my own attitudes about that again, it's like something we talked about earlier this month. It really comes down to what is the objective in making this film? What are the long-term goals for it? And if it's not to monetize, then why deny yourself that? I don't know. It's just something that's rolling around my head. Now, the song that was talked about by Ricky and Tracy both, it actually occurs 3 times. There's the initial thing of it. Then the second time it's played, it's right after he gets drunk. They slow it down. And then there's the punk version of the exact same song. I feel like that, that song was there as like the punchline of a joke, basically. The main line of it of how does the phrase of it go? If you're dumb, you have to be tough, or something along those lines.
If you're dumb, you got to be strong, something like that.
Right. That's a joke that deserved to be told once. But because the song was replayed and replayed, maybe that's that same joke again. It's like, okay, maybe a little heavy-handed. Yeah,
we get it.
Yeah, but it didn't rub me as wrong as it sounds like that it might have with you, Tracy. The video does go a little bit long, but I really liked the writing, and it's interesting. There was at the end of it. I felt a little disturbed, but I couldn't pinpoint why. I just felt unsettled. And it wasn't until you pointed it out, Ricky, in your comments on the alcoholism and the patheticness of it, that I thought, that's it. That's what, there was this undercurrent there of, yes, this is a comedy, but there's a real sadness to it there. That was so subtle, subtle to the point where it makes me wonder, was that intentional? Was it in the subconscious of whoever put it together, or were they deliberately going for that? I honestly don't know. I don't know how to know that, but it's definitely there. And, the slowing down and the changing of the music helped convey that. The reuse of coffee or beer. Again, that was a joke at the beginning, and it was funny.
It wasn't funny at the end.
But the second time, it wasn't as funny, and I couldn't figure out why. Like, I knew it wasn't just they used the same joke again, because that's common comedy technique. You reprise and tie things up. It's like any good Saturday Night Live sketch, it's when they nail the ending. The ones that don't, it just feels like it just wanders off, and you're left with this unfulfilled feeling. Sketch comedy, if you can tie in an ending, great stand-up comedians will do that. They'll have some kind of theme or joke they mention early in their set, and then very often the last joke they tell somehow ties back to that same theme, and it's just brilliant. And it
Yeah.
takes a lot of intelligent writing as a comedian to be able to do that. It's very, very hard. Well, this was a very simplified version of that. That reprise, it wasn't a copy of the same scene. It meant something different by the end. And Ricky, I think you nailed it with the reality of alcoholism actually isn't very funny. It's funny in the early scenes, but when you really let it settle in, it's not. And when you really let it wash over you, that this guy's existence is just going from one hangover to the next, basically, and getting physically beat up and unappreciated, and he's never going to be anything great. Dude, that's depressing, That's
and the
tough.
psychology of that is implied, which is the reason why he's doing the stunt work is because he's drinking, and he's drinking because he's doing the stunt work.
Yes. Yeah. It's a spiral, right? So I don't know. Is this thing a hot mess, or is it a work of genius? I'm left questioning that now, because I guess what we can all agree on probably is there's some real promise here.
Yes.
And there's no denying that more attention to details of production would only help the piece.
Yes.
We can disagree about to what degree the piece suffered for lack of those, but there's no question about it. More polish would make this even, I don't want to say even funnier. That's part of it, but better. It would be a better vehicle for its message, which I think it's a message. Unless we're just reading way too much into this, I think the message completely transcends the Star Citizen universe altogether.
Yeah.
There are people right now, this is their life. And I'm not talking about stuntmen. I'm talking about people who they feel like they're in a job that gives them no fulfillment.
Yep.
They feel beat up, maybe not physically, but in other ways. And they feel like they're going nowhere.
Yep.
And for many of them, the coping mechanism for that is at the bottom of a bottle. That's not a comedy.
Yeah.
So this is comedy used as a vehicle, I suspect, to convey a message, which comedy is great at that. Sci-fi is great at conveying certain messages that have nothing to do with space. And comedy is great at conveying some dark truths in a way that you don't feel sick after ingesting it. That's the brilliance of when comedy is employed right, as satire, as things like this. So I have a great appreciation for that. And, maybe the talents of this, whoever was involved with this, weren't either fully employed here or aren't fully fleshed out yet. Dude, what a great seed in the ground this is for whoever's behind this. Please keep doing what you're doing, because this is, it's meaningful and it's compelling, even though it's sloppy. I mean, how amazing is that? This is the most, let's say, primitive in terms of production value thing we've watched in quite a while, but it moved me more than anything else we've watched this month. That's the power of story, and frankly, I think it comes back to writing.
I really do. Regardless of whether it was intentional or not, they chose the subject of this story, and the subject is inherently ambivalent. You can go either way. So the fact that they made that choice and they portrayed this character the way they did, I think is an indication that it was intentional to some extent. Tracy, you had something you wanted to share?
Well, I was just going to say, I think you've absolutely nailed the review of it, because I completely agree with you. I can absolutely see what you're saying, and I totally get what you're saying about the writing side of it, because it's all there in this. It's definitely all there. It's just the aesthetic quality of it is a little rougher compared to some of the others that we've seen, I think.
You know what movie I'm thinking of when we watch this is the one from a couple months back I don't remember what engine it was made in, but it was the guy on the train
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
hair restoration
yeah.
pills.
Yes.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And remember, we had similar questions at the end of that about was this comedy or not?
Absurdist is
The
what we
writing on this is what made this a better vehicle for the message.
Yes.
And it was, and this is greatly inferior production values wise to that one.
Yes,
But
that's
this
right.
is a more memorable and more effective delivery mechanism for the message. And
That's a great point,
that's,
Phil.
yeah.
So if we could say anything to our listeners, please spend time on the writing of what you're doing. Don't just do one piece, one pass. Think about it, work on it. And I'd like to make 3 suggestions to the for science, the people that put this together. 1, spend time on the lighting of your scenes so that they're clear and that you can see everything. Obviously, there are going to be scenes that are going to be darker, but you can't go too dark so that you have to squint to see what's actually going on. There were several scenes in there that were so dark it took me a while to make out what was going on. So work on the lighting of your scene so that everything is relatively clear. You could still see it. Secondly, work on your sound. Spaces have sounds. You need to have ambient sounds in each different space because it lends an emotional tone to the scene. And also work on simple effects. You don't have to create sounds for every single thing. But as Phil pointed out, if you're on the bed and you're sitting on a bed that might have springs, or you're turning, you need to have some sort of sound effect for it. When you fall on the stairs, when he got drunk and fell on the stairs, you needed to have a sound effect of him falling on the stairs.
Yeah.
Just simple things like that. And thirdly, think about going through your scene and going through your film when you finally get the last cut and seeing what scenes you don't need to tell the story. Only include the scenes that will continue to tell the story of what you're saying. That will make viewers like Tracy enjoy your film more because she doesn't feel bored by repetitious scenes. So if you do those 3 things, your next film will be much, much better. And combine that with the excellent writing, and you'll have a knockout. A knockout. Thank you.
I'd just
Go
like
ahead.
to add with the lighting. If you're using a game where you have no control over the lighting, and it's too dark, find a different location in the game. Like if you can't place your own lights, just
Excellent.
go find somewhere else in the game that has a similar look to it, but you can still see the characters.
Yep.
Because a game like Star Citizen is huge. If you've got a corridor that looks right except it's too dark, there's probably going to be another corridor that still looks right but has better lighting in it. And
the only person who will know that there's not physical continuity between those spaces is you. No viewer is going to know that, or no one's going to care. You know, if so, don't let it get in your head that, well, that corridor isn't actually there between those spaces. Who cares?
Who cares?
Nobody cares.
Nobody's going to be thinking about that.
They want to see what's going on. Yeah.
That happens in big Hollywood films, so you can do it in your machinima video.
All the time it does.
You'll have a scene in outside of a building in one place, and then they go inside. The inside is a set somewhere, could be in a completely different city or part of the world. But as when you're watching the film, it's the character going through the door into it looks seamless, but it's not in real life.
Yeah.
And you don't have the challenges of real world production, which in real world production, they've got to worry about color correction between different locations and whatnot. When you're within a game, generally stuff's going to blend together pretty well without much adjustment. So yeah, it's a great idea.
But for science and a group of people in Star Citizen, keep making movies. And keep making movies about offbeat characters that are non-heroic, that are everyday, and that you can say something about.
Yep.
Life.
This was my favorite. This was my favorite film of the month, hands down.
Oh, that's great.
I didn't expect it to be. When I started, I thought, oh boy, what's Ricky doing here? Is this a prank or something?
I saw it and I looked at it, and of course my little critical eye was going, oh. But then I just put that aside and I just kept watching, and I really got a strong feeling about it. You know, alcoholism has been a part of my family and my life. And I could see that they were trying to do something with that. And I think that's an important theme. Well, that's it for this month. I want to thank all three of my guests and myself for picking interesting, fun movies. We hope you enjoy them. Please contact us if you're part of For Science and you have some ideas, or you want to be interviewed. We'd love to interview you about this movie. Contact us at talk@completelymashinima.com. And as always, we have show notes that'll link to the movie and other significant links at our website, which is completelymashinima.com. Thank you all for listening and watching, and we'll see you next month. Goodbye.
We love you, audience. Say it back.
We love you. Say it back.
Say it back.